Hello there, everyone. It is your boy B3 back with another kicking graphic novel review. Today we are looking at something I've been wanting to read for quite a while now, Swamp Thing Green Hell by Jeff Lemire. Yeah, so recently I reviewed all of Jeff Lemire Animal Man, volumes 1 through 5. Great run. And a lot of people were saying that this Swamp Thing book from the Black Label is an end to Jeff Lemire's Animal Man run. The end it didn't get to have. No, it doesn't feel like that to me. That's one of the main reasons I wanted to read it. I mean, I read every Swamp Thing book that comes out, but that was also a big selling point on this for me. But, I mean, it's almost entirely Swamp Thing stuff. Like, there's a little bit of Animal Man stuff going on, but I think people hyped it up too much as an end to Jeff Lemire's Animal Man story. And it's really, really not. It's really not. But let me read you the back of the book, okay, my friends, okay, my pals? Our weapon, our rage, our Swamp Thing. The earth is all but done. The last remnants of humanity cling to a mountaintop island lost to endless floodwater. The parliaments of the green, the red, and the rot all agree. It's time to wipe the slate clean and start the cycle of life over again. And to do so, they've united their powers to summon an avatar, one of the most horrific monsters to ever stalk the surface of the Forsaken Planet. Against a creature like that, there can be no fighting back, unless you have a soldier who understands the enemy. Someone who has used its tactics before. Someone like Alec Holland. Shame he's been dead for decades. One of the greatest artists in modern DC history, Doug Mahnke from JLA and Final Crisis, joins visionary writer Jeff Lemire from Sweet Tooth, Gideon Falls, and Animal Man on this gory, gruesome monster mash, where the fate of humanity rests in the hands of someone who isn't human at all. Okay, so that's my review. See you guys later. No, I'm kidding. I do like this book. I felt like it could have been longer. It's like 3 big issues altogether. And I do think it's a little too expensive for what it is as well. Luckily, I was able to get it on sale, and I also had a gift card. So that works out for me. But yeah, I do think that the cover price for this collection is too much. But it is still cool. It's part of the Black Label, which was originally going to be like an adults-only label for DC, but then they were embarrassed by the Batman dick pic debacle, and now it's basically just another Elseworlds thing. Most of the stories are still darker, but they like threw All-Star Superman under this, and that's, I mean, spoiler alert, he dies in it, but it's not a dark book at all. It's a very uplifting and hopeful book. Very lighthearted throughout, despite his imminent death throughout it. But yeah, Jeff Lemire, Doug Mahnke, and David Baron did a good job, but I really felt like this story could have been longer. That we could have maybe gotten to know some of these humans better, that are in this and whatnot. It just really wasn't long enough. It wasn't long enough. But also, it's got these humans that are living on this island, and the sea levels have risen immensely. There's like no food, and water doesn't seem super easy to come by either. Not fresh water anyway. There's warring humans, and the planet is just poisoned. Life is only able to thrive in the ocean, but on land, pretty much everything is dead except for the last remaining humans. So, the red, the green, and the rot all decide, hey, humans have killed this planet. They're still kind of killing this planet. Let's get rid of them. And the green is like, you know what, I'll take care of it. I got it. So, they make this swamp thing out of this kind of piratey guy who dies, and this is a Swamp Thing that's very much entirely controlled by the Green. This avatar doesn't really have anything in the way of free will. He's just a weapon to be pointed at human beings. And that's it. So, they need to defeat him, and of course it's a Swamp Thing, so it's nigh invulnerable. Not invulnerable, let's say invincible, because their bodies can be harmed. They can just regenerate them or grow entirely new bodies, because their consciousness exists within all plant life on Earth, pretty much. So their body is not their limit. But it turns out that John Constantine is living in this lighthouse. Also, the sea levels have risen a ton, but there's an old lighthouse here? Wouldn't that imply that this is a sea level from decades ago? That's a bit of a plot hole, but I can overlook it. And this elderly John Constantine summons Alec Holland's Swamp Thing, who always fought for humans over the Green. And Swamp Thing has kind of been living in his own personal heaven with his wife and daughter. So he's very mad at Constantine for bringing him out. The Parliament is mad that Swamp Thing is there. And Swamp Thing's like, look, Parliament, just send me back. I don't want anything to do with the living world. And then they're like, okay, yeah, actually, Constantine kind of lied to you. Like, your body is bound to this plane, but your soul is not. You can just hop from that body and go straight back to your heaven anytime you want. And Swamp Thing's like, good, okay, I'll do that. You're not going to kill all the humans on Earth, though, right? And they're like, oh no, we're still going to do that. So Swamp Thing's like, okay, well, then I have to stay and fight you because, my wife would want that anyway. So the Parliament's like, okay, well, we're going to take away all your power then. So they strip him of his connection from the Green. So the only power he has left is whatever he had stored in that body. And when the body he's in is destroyed, he's finished. He can't regenerate like this other Swamp Thing. But he does find himself able to defeat it in a way which doesn't seem super convincing. It really doesn't even feel like he should have won. That's why I said this book should have been longer. I feel like there should have been much more of a struggle. And there was a struggle to beat it. It was difficult, but Swamp Thing is at such a disadvantage, and it happens relatively quickly. It feels like it's too fast. This book just needed to be longer. It needed a slower pace to it. Swamp Thing needed to think of more ways to defeat this Green and stuff. And then the Green, the Red, and the Rot all put their powers together to make these gnarly avatars, like all these different horrible creatures out of what's in the ocean. And they make it out of dead things, live flora, and live fauna. So they're kind of like connected to everything. But since there's so many of them, their powers are spread thin, and they're not true avatars, so they can't regenerate or anything, which is kind of the trade-off for numbers. Now, the battle with these makes much more sense. It's much more believable that it goes the way it goes in the time it takes. But, Constantine's doing his tricky stuff. He has Boston Brand, the dead man, take him to Animal Woman. It's Maxine Baker. Because if you read the Jeff Lemire Animal Man run or listened to my reviews, because these are listenable reviews, you'll remember that she was like this prodigy avatar of the Red. But, and it's a big but here, at the end of the Jeff Lemire Animal Man run, Animal Man makes a deal with the Red. And he's like, I'll be your full avatar. I will do literally whatever you say. But you have to leave my daughter out of it. She has to be allowed to have a normal life. And so, they take away her avatar powers. She's no longer the avatar of the Red. So what happened? It doesn't tell us. Is that retconned? Did they never take away her powers? When Buddy Baker, Animal Man, died, did they give them back to her? Did they give them back to Maxine? What happened there? It doesn't tell us. So she's Animal Woman, but there's she shouldn't be. And you see, the thing about this book is, I was kind of expecting Animal Man himself to return in his immortal space form. Because once again, in the Jeff Lemire Animal Man run, he made a deal with this alien who was an avatar of the Seed Planet. And the Seed Planet is a planet that's connected to like the green, the gray, and the red on a higher level. And so other planets get their connection to these forces from the Seed Planet. So the Seed Planet needs to be guarded 24/7, because if it's destroyed, not only will all life be destroyed, but pretty much all death will be destroyed too. It's a very insane concept. And Animal Man makes a deal to be the Seed Avatar when that alien died, as long as that alien would send him back to Earth with the power to like save his daughter and his planet and stuff. So what I was thinking was Buddy Baker would be the avatar of that planet, sense the turmoil in it, and then come kind of help out Ex Machina style. Fight alongside Swamp Thing. Maybe, since he has this greater connection to these elemental forces than the parliaments on Earth, maybe he would give Swamp Thing his powers back. Or something. But no, I guess that Animal Man thread is just... it's not tied to anything, it's not cut, it's just loose. That's what I'm saying. This doesn't feel like a continuation or a ending to the Animal Man run by Jeff Lemire. And yet, you know, Jeff Lemire's Animal Man run had things left open. Like, it once again, as I said, it never resolves that Seed Planet thing. But then I started thinking about it, and other than the Seed Planet, pretty much everything in that run was resolved by the end of Volume 5. And I kept thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I think the only reason this was heralded as an ending to that run is because since that run was underrated, a lot of people felt let down when it ended, or people like me, who maybe discovered it later on, were kind of bummed that there wasn't more, despite the fact that it was crazy good. And I think that if we Animal Man fans step back and really take a look at the Jeff Lemire run, the ending was a lot better than we originally thought. Once again, it showed his son's reincarnation, and leaving, and all this other stuff, and it fixed his marriage, and blah, blah, blah. And all of this, the only real thing it left open was the impending Avatar promotion to Seed Planet Avatar. And then that could easily just be something that happens years down the line. I still don't think it's happened in DC Comics, because I don't think we've had an Animal Man run since then. Not to my knowledge, unless it just totally missed me. So yeah, I actually think that original Jeff Lemire Animal Man run actually had a good ending. And yes, I know this is also written by Jeff Lemire, but it doesn't super seem to connect that well to his run. This book implies that Animal Man died in the line of duty on Earth, which means the Seed Planet Avatar stuff just didn't matter? Who's the Seed Planet Avatar then? Somebody's got to be, right? So what's going on with that? I don't know. Anyway, let's continue. Constantine is able to convince Animal Woman to fight alongside him. And as I said, I guess the Maxine losing her powers thing was retconned, because we see a panel of Animal Man and an older version of her, like maybe a teenage version, flying together in the sky. And it's like, hey, he didn't want her to have those powers. He made a deal to get rid of him. He wouldn't happily be flying with her because he didn't want her to have them. So why did she have him as a teenager? Why did she get him back while he was still alive? It doesn't make sense. Sorry, it doesn't make sense. It's like, I feel like Jeff Lemire was writing this and maybe didn't intend for it to be a continuation of his Animal Man run. He just put Animal Man in it because he likes Animal Man, and they're both Vertigo characters, I believe. And that's why. Because it doesn't feel like too much of an extension of his Animal Man. At least not to the point that people were saying. Anyhow, let's continue. So, yeah, Animal Man, or Animal Woman, sorry, and Swamp Thing fight off these hordes. Constantine gives his life and his soul in order to give Swamp Thing hell powers. So he's like a hell Swamp Thing. It's pretty wild. And then Swamp Thing and Animal Woman go into their respective parliaments and they slaughter them. They slaughter them. And once again, if this was a continuation of the Jeff Lemire Animal Man run, that maybe would have been more emotional. Because Swamp Thing has never really liked the Parliament. Him killing them is, like, that makes sense. But Animal Woman, that's a bit different. At the end of the Jeff Lemire Animal Man run, the Parliament of Flesh is killed. One of them teams up with Brother Blood to kill the rest, and then they have to put that one down, and he's replaced by two of them that are very friendly to Animal Man and very friendly to Maxine. Shepherd and, is it Socks? What was the cat's name? Socks? Boots? Something like that? I think it was Socks. But I also had a childhood cat named that, so maybe I'm just, I don't know. But, like, the cat and Shepherd, the fawn guy, became members of the Parliament. And at the beginning of this book, when you look at the Parliament of Red, there's one that looks a lot like Shepherd. So she would have had to kill, like, her childhood friends. But it doesn't dwell on that. Like, that, there's no emotional struggle there. So, are they in the Parliament still? If they are, did she just kill them? Because it seems like Shepherd is still in there. Is the cat still in there? It's very... I'm reading this, and it just doesn't... Other than the existence of Maxine, it doesn't feel super connected to Lemire's Animal Man run. But once again, this is something that could have been explored better, or at all, if this was a longer run. Maybe if this was 6 issues instead of like 3, that would be better. This book needed to be longer. If it was longer, you could explore what happened with Animal Man more. Swamp Thing's, or Alec Holland's Swamp Thing could have struggled more against the first Swamp Thing that was way more powerful than him. Maybe you could have watched Maxine struggle with killing the Parliament of Flesh. Maybe you could have brought Buddy Baker Animal Man back from the Seed Planet. Maybe there would have been time for that, you know? And yeah, him coming from the Seed Planet would make Constantine's sacrifice unnecessary, and it wouldn't be much of a story beat. And to be honest, this seems less like... People keep saying, oh, it's a good end for Animal Man, but it's a Swamp Thing book, and nobody talks about how it's an end for Swamp Thing. And I think that's because at the end of this book, Swamp Thing just goes back to his heaven. You know, he goes back to his heaven, which is where he started at the beginning. So he kind of just goes full circle in this story. So it doesn't feel like an end for him, because he's just going back to where he was at the beginning of the story. But if you look at this story and you think about it, there's all these magically Vertigo characters. It's not an end for Animal Man. It's not the end for Swamp Thing, even. This is just the end for Vertigo Comics. Because it was also the end for Constantine in this. Constantine dies and intentionally gets sent to hell so that Swamp Thing can have hell powers. He wasn't going to go to hell. He'd used all these spiritual loopholes and stuff to get out of having his soul owned, and he chose to go to hell to save humanity. I mean, holy shit. But... It just feels like an end for all these Vertigo characters. And I actually think that's kind of nice when you think about it that way, don't you? I don't know. When I first got this book, I didn't think I would be discussing it so deeply, and I thought I would enjoy it a lot more. I mean, I did enjoy it. It's a good book, but once again, I thought I would enjoy it more. And I'm glad it ends on a hopeful note, with it seeming like there's going to be a new avatar of the green in the little girl that we followed the whole time. And let me tell you, the variant cover gallery in the back is sick. Swamp Thing has the best variant covers, dude. He just do. But also, yeah, it just felt like more of an end for Vertigo than an end for Swamp Thing or Animal Man or Constantine as individuals. And I think that's really interesting. Kind of a love letter to Vertigo and its characters. And I like that. Even though I think it should have been longer so that we could explore this concept in this world a bit more. Now let's talk about the art. Doug Mahnke is an artist that I like. And in a lot of my earlier DC Comics reviews on this channel, like talking about Justice League and some Green Lantern and stuff, which is what I know him from the most, my friend Matty Matt and I used to talk about Mahnke face. A lot of Doug Mahnke's faces look very weird. And that doesn't really happen in this. Mahnke was already a really good artist when I was reading his Green Lantern and Justice League stuff. It's just a lot of the times the faces were really weird to look at. And he really stayed on model in this book. He's definitely still improving as an artist. And I respect the shit out of that. And the art in this book is actually pretty damn incredible. The coloring and everything, the line work, it's really good art in this book. And Mahnke, I love how he draws Swamp Thing. It's like he was born to draw Swamp Thing. He makes him look terrifying, and when he's losing a lot of his power and he gets real thin and gaunt, you can really see it in his face. He makes him look so creepy. Because Swamp Thing is a monster at the end of the day, at least physically. And dang, yeah, I really love how Mahnke draws him. So yeah, the story is good, and the art I think is pretty spectacular. The only issue is it's not very weird art. A lot of Swamp Thing books just have this really weird art style and very unique paneling. And this book doesn't really have that. The art style is what you would expect from really any high-level comic artist, but it's not anything really unique. And the paneling is... It's just like pretty normal. It's really normal paneling for the most part. I mean, there's like one page where Swamp Thing is sitting on this throne made out of like a hollowed out tree trunk after he and Maxine have killed the Parliaments, and there's like their faces are pointing at each other, and you see them standing amongst the corpses. That was a very Swamp Thing page. But most of the pages in this book are pretty business as usual, and I think that's kind of a shame, you know? Because, I mean, like Alan Moore's Swamp Thing had very interesting paneling, and then so did Scott Snyder's and whatnot. And Charles Soule, I think, was after Snyder, and I believe that one also had that crazy paneling. And then The Swamp Thing, which I think was Ram the Fifth? How do you say that? I believe I've reviewed the first 2 volumes of that. I need to review the 3rd one. I don't wonder why I haven't done that yet. I should do that soon. But yeah, and then that one also had very weird, unique paneling. And that's kind of a shame that this Swamp Thing book doesn't have that paneling. But that's really my only complaint about the art. The art's really good. I just wish it was weirder. And I wish we had that unique paneling that Swamp Thing has kind of become known for. You know? A lot of the time, people talking about comics on YouTube won't talk about the paneling, but that's actually very important to me. So, that's it for this book. It's good, but get it on sale and don't get your hopes up for Animal Man. But that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links down in the description below. Facebook, Twitter, etc. Sorry this was kind of a long one. But I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.